Hello, I'm APX Toycat, and wanting to be prepared is good, and so if you intend to play the Mounts of Mayhem update on your existing world, well, here are 6 things that you should absolutely be doing. By the way, this is my Update Adventures Let's Play, and this is a world that I share with the internet through all of the updates it's been through since 2012, and every single time an update comes out, I let you know what I want to do in my world to prepare for this brand new update, and I'm sharing it with you right now. You can subscribe if you want to see more of this, but let's get right into the first of the 6 things, which is a really simple thing to do, but if you want to be prepared for the update better, go fishing. I'm being serious. If you spend a little time fishing now, it will greatly help you tomorrow and in the future past that, and the reason for that is simple. Fishing is the easiest way to obtain pufferfish, and pufferfish, hey, on the second go, right after a bowl. Pufferfish is going to be the easiest way to get your hands on a Nautilus, which is the brand new mount that you're going to want to play around with. Even if it's just for the sake of fun, you're going to need to have multiple pufferfish, and so go for some good fishing now. But even better, it's not just the pufferfish you want, or I might argue you should go to a war motion and just go kill them in person, but if you get some cod, just like I did, well, you can use this to heal up your pufferfish too, and so having a whole stack of cod, oh, none in there. Having a whole stack of cod and having a few pufferfishes would be really, really nice. Now is the time not to be selling any of your fish to a villager or even eating any, not that I assume you were doing that anyway, but having pufferfish is going to be really good, and so make sure you get your hands on some right now. That's a really easy way that you can help for the future, and honestly, the most calming way, but the second is something that relates to something you maybe have already done. Oh. Okay. That's that. Thank God that was just a rendering issue. Anyway, the next one is clearly something that I think everyone should be doing, because I love the idea of having a stable, and so I built one in this corner of my world. I think it's delightful, and I think it's such a nice corner that I even built a big little statue that you can go and hang out next to as of the most recent Toycat Let's Play World update. Very, very fun. But also is the fact that right over here is where I keep all sorts of horses. So I keep myself fast horses, I keep myself jumpy horses, and I also keep myself mules and skeleton horses, and I think you all know where this is going. You need to make some extra space in your stable for the zombie horses, if you have something like this, but given that most players don't have stables, my second thing that I would actually recommend everyone do is get your hands on a fast horse now. Seriously, the Mounts of Mayhem drop is not just about adding new mounts, although there's a ton of those. It's also a moment where mounts are going to become much more useful. Why is that the case? Well, let me show you what happens when I take my very fast horse and I want to get it over to that little end island I have over there, or even I just want to get it over to the Toycat Let's Play sign. What happens is I take it in the water, and the moment it goes too deep, literally 2 blocks deep in the water here, you'll notice something funny happens. The horse can float, but it can't float with me on top. Sitting on the horse makes it full below the water, which I guess maybe makes some sense. I don't think I could swim with a whole other person on top of me, especially if they were a cat wearing Netherite armor. But what's interesting is the fact that, yeah, horses are able to swim in water, but if you want to actually use them, you have to nudge them painfully and slowly, or you have to put them on a lead. And honestly, I know leads are like a solution for a lot of people's problems, but I hate them. Being able to use the horse in the water right now just kind of sucks, but soon you'll be able to actually swim with your horses in water, and so having a nice fast horse is going to be extra important for this. I do still think that jumping to get past a lot of water is going to be useful. So here's my fast and high jumping horse. I can get him very, very far into the water, so I can go at normal speed rather than swimming speed. But still, horses will be able to swim, and make sure you take advantage of that one, because I absolutely love this guy, and maybe you'll love him too. But what's also fun is the fact that, yeah, you should now be thinking about, are mounts a more viable part of getting around my world? There's been a big revolution in the survival Minecraft space recently, with people realizing that even though elytras and ice boats are objectively the fastest, it's fun sometimes to use the other methods of transportation, and so is now the time to be considering adding horse paths to your world. Here's one I recently added. Look at this. Instead of just being able to go underneath there, I've now set up this long horse path on this side, and basically having more ways to get horses around your world is something you might appreciate. So get yourself a fast horse. I've made a breeding guide if you want to watch it. I love the fact that I have a British road sign in the thumbnail and people still clicked it. Yeah, my 50 mile per hour speed limited horse, which doesn't make sense because Minecraft is not measured in miles per hour, it's measured in blocks per second. But anyway, if you want to get a fast horse, I've made a video. But the simple part of it, the really simple way I describe if you don't want to watch more videos than this one, is breed your fastest horses together, then check how fast the baby runs, and then breed that with them. Right now is a really limited space. Mojang is going to nerf baby horses. It's going to be a whole thing. So make sure you do your horse breeding now, get yourself a fast horse, and take advantage of the slightly better system that we have for it. That is my recommendation to you. Fast horses would be good. Speaking of things that would be good, let's now talk about the third thing that you can do. Well, at least if you're me, right? I think that getting a Nautilus is going to be important, and I think that maybe these undersea mounts are going to be so important that just like how we have a horse stable, or if you're me, also a Happy Gar stable, maybe you might want to have a Nautilus stable. That's a fun idea, huh? Take a second to look at my world, and you'll realize that my big canal that goes along here and round there actually has a little spur that shoots out to the edge of my world, and so theoretically, this location would be perfect for me to have all my Nautiluses, zombie Nautiluses, and coral Nautiluses in one place, and so maybe, just maybe, it'd be smart to have a stable. Now, obviously, this is the sort of thing you could build after the update, but if I'm me, wait, I am me, then what I would prefer to do is take this great space we have right now, I was not expecting to build it over there, actually, but that is precisely where I decided to place what is now going to be called the kind of water version of my stable, and I've got to say I love this name. Instead of it being a stable, like for my horses, this is going to be the unstable, and so it's deliberately made out of the most unstable wood, and also there's a bunch of concrete powder that's floating in the sky, so just removing a single torch could destroy a healthy amount of this single build, and isn't that what building is all about? Anyway, now the idea is basically that I'm going to need 3 separate spaces. One of these will be for my Nautiluses, so we can remove all the blocks here, have the water kind of seep in, and then one of these will be for my zombie Nautiluses, because I do think that there is going to be a real time and place for Nautiluses for most people, so we'll have a little space for them that goes over here too, and then we're going to have a third space for the coral zombie Nautilus. I really think that this is going to be like one of those fun niche things that just like, why wouldn't you bother with just for fun? And so this is something I'd recommend, even if you don't build right now, at least have a plan for what you want to do with it, because I do like the idea of using Nautiluses as a transport method to be fun with. I think that Minecraft is all about having fun, and sometimes you have more fun doing the silly stuff, so having a mob that I can ride from here, and then like under down here, and all the way across my world is fun, but going into the future, I like the idea of like digging underwater tunnels, specifically for the Nautilus to be able to go through. Whether I do that or not is of course something else, but also I'm going to have a chest, which honestly I should move to be closer. Again, this is where I expected I'd be doing my stuff, but the beauty about building is sometimes you make plans and then you make other better plans, and my other better plans for the stable was to put it here, so now I'm going to have a little chest storage place for all of my Nautilus needs. Whether you do this or not, entirely up to you, but what I'm going to just simply have is a chest right over here, I guess, because why not? And in that chest, I'll put my pufferfish, you need those, my raw cods, gonna need those, I've got a name tag right here, I don't know why it says chonk, but I might need that too, and of course, at this point, it's worth considering, do you need a saddle as well? Now, here's something that might blow your mind. So the third thing I would say that's important to do is to get yourself a saddle, and if you've been playing Minecraft and you haven't been following the drops as much, this is way more common in the drops than it was in the updates, but if you haven't followed the drops quite so closely, here's something fun you might not have known you can do. You can actually take 3 leather and an iron, and you can craft saddles. Now, you can't do the same with horse or Nautilus armor, so there will be a bit of a trip after the update, but it's worth having at least a saddle, because you are going to want to saddle these fellas and ride them around the world. Okay, let's talk about the fourth thing that you may want to do after the update. So I've obviously got this beautiful space lined up, ready for the zombie horse. Genuinely, it's like I knew, but I'll be honest with you, it's not that I did. I just designed the stables of this many slots and figured, yeah, that's roughly how many you need, and I was wrong by 1. Or was I right for the future? Who's to say? But this last slot right here will be perfect for my zombie horses, and one of the essential things to know about zombie horses is they don't actually, you can't keep them in the sun. They burn in the sun because they are still an undead mob, despite being very, very cute. So something important to keep in mind is you're going to need a covered stable for them, but also you'll need a covered stable if you want to grow some mushrooms. Why do I mention this? Well, I should have known better than to assume the mushroom would actually grow there. Well, why do I say this? Well, there's a really important thing about mushrooms and the zombie horse. Unlike regular horses, which eat everything you care about, and then also golden carrots and golden apples, so things you really care about, if you want to, get yourself a zombie horse bed, you're going to need to find some red mushrooms, which means I'm going to find a nice dark place where there's actually space for us to grow. I think this seems to cover that bill right here. That looks good. And then we're going to grow a giant mushroom. Yeah, I should have brought more bone meal, shouldn't I? Oh, it was just never going to grow while it was there. Maybe, to be fair, there is a torch a little too close to it, and then maybe that torch is a little too close to it. Okay, now can we try it? No, still probably too close to some torches. So let's remove all of these torches nearby, get some real darkness happening over here, and then give it a try. Nope, that's still not happy with that. We're definitely in the dark, but maybe this is blue ice. Why is this here, actually, is a good question I would love an answer to. But let's just place it over there. Give it another try. This is a frustrating process that I guess I probably should have just waited for night to do. So, pro tip, get yourself some red mushrooms. Know how they grow first, if you don't want to be silly like me. And, we literally could have just waited 3 minutes and it'd been fine. So before we talk about what to do with your zombie horses, let's talk about the other things that you can do to help them, and indeed what you can do more generally, because I think that if you're going to have zombie horses in your world, it's going to be kind of a flex. Like having a skeleton horse, it's not faster than a regular horse, it just means you had a super rare event happen, and so I think zombie horses will be the same. It's a bit of a flex, and if you want to make sure that you can actually use them in the daytime, make sure you craft yourself horse armor. You can literally craft leather horse armor, which has the worst effect. It's like a +3 boost or something. It's not that useful, but leather horse armor will keep your skeleton horses from dying, and you can also dye it if you want to, so you can make it green or blue or color it however you like. It's the most customizable and the cheapest, the only renewable source of horse armor, so keep that one in mind. Also, while we're here, waiting for our mushrooms to grow, I've got something else that I'd like to show, which is the fact that, yeah, I've got 3 separate Nautilus chambers here, but there's no distinction between which one is which, until now. Whenever I see a Wandering Trader, I buy the weird items that I don't want to get in survival, like coral, and so what I can now do to make sure it's very clear that this is the one for for these guys, is we can put some of these blocks here, and I'm going to do the pointlessly gendered thing, where half of it is obviously for male Nautili, and the other half can be obviously for the opposite. Oh no! No, my concrete powder turned into concrete. That's not what I wanted at all. But yeah, what I'm going to do is I guess we'll just put it back and we'll see if anyone even notices. But yeah, long story short is I have all this Nautilus, and I've got it in blue and pink, and it just seems perfect to do something silly like this. Let's just slowly have it meet in the middle there. What's not to love about this? Hopefully the answer is there's nothing not to love about this, because I'm really kind of banking on that. So yeah, let's put some blocks here, and then we'll do the same down here and over here. And there we go. Blue and pink. It's just a tiny little thing, but yeah, it makes everything look a little bit nicer, I think. And yeah, this is a rough place to store a Nautilus, but it will be the flowing water going in will actually keep the Nautilus in one place. So it is kind of handy that way if you think about it. Also, why is the water physics are the most confusing thing in Minecraft? Why will it only flow 4 blocks if there was a hole that is now patched up? I do not know, but yeah, welcome to Minecraft. Okay, so now that it's nighttime, I can show you how you can turn one mushroom into many. All you need to do is find a nice dark spot. This shouldn't be too hard, but we'll go to the top of this hill just to be absolutely sure, and then we'll grab our mushroom, place it down, because it is light levels that prevent or encourage it to grow, and then you can turn one mushroom, like we have right here, into many mushrooms. You can either turn these into literal mushroom blocks like this. I think this is fun, and I think these are really... I think there's a lot of silly building projects you could do making stuff with these, but also you could just use a normal tool, or even better, a fortune axe, and every time you break one of these blocks, what do you get? A higher chance of mushrooms. I say that, but I think I'm ending up with... I've got 1 mushroom back, yeah! We made a break even. And if I'm really lucky, I might even make a profit on this. I might turn my 1 mushroom into, oh yeah, 2 mushrooms. 4 mushrooms, and that will now allow me to heal up my zombie horses. Because yeah, zombie horses are not regular horses, they don't eat golden carrots, which honestly to me I think makes them worthwhile by themselves. Has anyone else ever fed their golden apple that they were saving for a fight to their damn horse? Because I've done it multiple times, literally during live streams too. It's a wild time. But if you've ever had that moment and you're frustrated by it, then pro tip, just get yourself a zombie horse. The only thing he can take from you is your red mushrooms. And genuinely, how often do you even have red mushrooms in your inventory? Let alone care about them being in your inventory. But yeah, this will go in my lovely spot right over here, alongside my level horse armor, which I look forward to dyeing. Like, again, I think green would be a nice color, but, you know, future me, when he gets a zombie horse, he can make those decisions. I'm not all about ruining the fun of exploring a new update. I'm just about getting the big, heavy stuff out of the way. So, again, if you wanted to fish for a saddle, now would be a better time to do it than to waste the update time. If you wanted to craft yourself some saddles, now would be a better time. If you want to get your hands on some emeralds, I guess now would be a good time. And one of the reasons you might want to do that is for experience reasons. You see, you're going to need XP after this update. That's not a prediction, that's a guarantee. When it comes to getting XP, you can either go for the most efficient methods. I think these days, genuinely, villager trading is great. Or you can do what you find to be fun, because it's Minecraft, it's a video game. It's your choice how you get to enjoy it and what you do. And so one of my favorite methods, genuinely, I have this big flat land. Everything is lit around it, so it's the only place in my world mobs spawn. As well as beautiful firefly particles, by the way. Oh yeah, isn't that nice? But this is the part of my world that I go to, and I specifically come out here and kill zombies and creepers. I find skeletons to be a nightmare. But I love getting myself some extra gunpowder, now that the creeper farms have been broken. I love making extra holes, where you can see that this is in fact fake land. So let's just patch this one up, pretend that that never happened. You're making this hard, skeleton. But yeah, however it is you want to get XP, now is the time to do so. And in case you're curious about the reason, it's because there is a new enchantment coming to the game, but also a new tool that you can enchant. So even if you don't want lunge, there's a lot of reasons not to want it as a daily tool, you're going to want to enchant your spear with the same things you would enchant a sword with. Looting, fire aspect, unbreaking, and mending are pretty much no-brainers, I would say. Maybe fire aspect you could argue against, but you're going to want a sword with all those 3 things, and then maybe also a sharpness or a smite or a lunge, or maybe a lunge and a smite. I'm not in charge of how you do things, but I like the idea that we're going to have a second weapon that might actually make sense to have in the inventory. Especially if you think about the idea that, like, yeah, smite on a spear might be logical. Or indeed, if smite is perfect on a sword, because if you've never seen this before, if you've never been given the talk about how smite is better than sharpness, then here is a useful tip. When you have smite 5 on a sword, you can one-hit KO any undead mob. Look at this. Skeleton, single hit. It's crazy. And so sharpness is better for PvP, where it's useful against most enemies, or it's better if you never kill undead mobs. But if that's not true, the best thing to do is to have smite on a sword. So maybe you get sharpness on a spear, and it's better for killing things like creepers, because you don't want them to explode. Pro tip. It's a bit of a pain to clean that up. So now is the time to be getting XP, and you can do that via things you find fun. I used to enjoy mining nether quartz a lot, and so if you especially have big quartz projects, that might be fun too. Or, indeed, just like me, you might also like the idea of trading with villagers. Getting emeralds is a great source of XP in itself, but then so again, this is one of my favorite things to show off. It's something I had to set up because it's just too OP, and I do need the extra. Whenever I was working on big projects, I'd find my tools would get damaged, and because of mending, you always want to have high tier tools, right? And so if you get emeralds, you can actually spend your emeralds on a cleric, and not only do you get paid XP for buying XP, look at that, I just got XP for going into this guy right here. But then even better, you then get bottles of enchanting, which you can throw, and get this, that becomes even more XP. It's crazy, right? You can turn you can turn sticks into XP and emeralds, and you can turn those emeralds into XP and XP, and then you can use the XP. It's a very useful thing if, like me, the XP part of the game is like a side quest that gets in the way of your main quests. But whatever you want to do, now is your time to decide for yourself. that you've got to do it. Now is the time to say, yeah, let's get that XP. I'm going to need a spear, or you're probably going to want a spear at the least, and you're probably going to want to enchant it, and it's going to be frustrating if you have to spend a few hours, killing blazes or doing something kind of unrelated to what you want to play around with, unless you like the idea of specifically getting XP after the update, in which case, again, this is just a guide, do what you want, but it's specifically about getting the big tasks out of the way, which is why we have to move on to the next thing here, because if you want a spear, you probably don't want a copper one. No offense, Copper Spear, I'm sure you've got lovely other attributes. I'm sure you get a great personality underneath that ugly exterior. But if you are, when we're talking about like the Diamond Spear, the logical thing you're going to want to do if you have Netherite tools at all is to upgrade it to Netherite. That's right, the final big thing that you'll want to do is Netherite, because this is the update that has the most Netherite upgrades since the original one in 2020. So that means that now is the time to get free Netherite ingots if you want a spear and some horse armor and some Nautilus armor, or presumably just the two. It depends on exactly what your priorities are, but free Netherite ingots makes sense, and because we live in a post-2022 Minecraft world, you might also want to get your hands on some smithing templates. That means you need to have 7 diamonds per, plus a netherrack, and then you can turn your nether upgrades into more nether upgrades, into more nether upgrades. And this is going to be extra crucial, in my opinion, because I think that, yeah, having the choice to upgrade to netherite is always a nice one, and if you already have a bunch of other netherite tools, now is the time to do that. It is worth saying that I am probably not going to go for netherite Nautilus armor. I think that netherite horse armor makes sense, but I do worry that if I start building my Nautilus tunnels, I'll get really into it and just think, what is the point of Minecraft if not to have some flexes? So do keep that in mind, that now is the time to be getting netherite, which means, or indeed it might be the time to be getting diamonds if you don't have enough templates, but it means that now is probably the best time to do that, because again, I'm looking forward to playing around with the Nautilus itself, rather than having to say, well, Nautilus is out, better go to the Nether, or, new horse is out, better go to the Nether and find it. I'd much rather spend my time actually finding the features themselves, which means I'm going to the Nether to mine some Netherite. And it's kind of funny, actually, because I do have some Netherite that is very easy, or some ancient debris that's easy for me to mine, and the rest I'm going to have to go and find. And while we do that, I'd like to just quickly say, when it comes to preparing for stuff, I used to think it was kind of dumb when people were excited for, like, holidays and stuff like that. It's like, outside of the big two, Christmas and your birthday, that's when people, like, get you stuff and you get to, like, significantly advance your life. Maybe this is, like, a borderline sociopathic way to view holidays, but I always thought, like, why does anyone care about holidays? Like, they come and they go and they come again. And especially when people put, like, a lot of deal into this. I had a friend, an American friend, actually, who always spoke so highly about their Halloween parties. And I was like, but Halloween's, like, the dumb holiday, like, right? Like, I legitimately just did not get it. And after a while, I kind of appreciate, especially as more seasons come by me, it's actually kind of nice to have something to look forward to every year. Something that you can say, like, oh yeah, that's when I'll put a bunch of effort into something. Knowing that it's planned and scheduled can be really useful. And so yeah, by the way, this ancient debris has been planned to be mined for a while. I've kept it just loose in this tunnel because I genuinely found it by accident. It's super, super high up, by the way, right? But I found it by accident. I figured it'd just be perfect, like engagement bait when people say, Toy Cat, there's ancient debris. And I'm like, oh, I don't see any. It was a silly stream bit that has started by accident, but I am now going to mine it. I think it's served its time. But clearly, if we found ancient debris here, we're in a chunk where we can find some more, and so maybe that means now is the time to do precisely that. Let's dig down, I don't know, like this way, I guess. Actually, this way isn't a tunnel. It would be kind of nice. Let's dig down right over here and see what we find. This is why I need XP so much, by the way, is because I do big old mining projects like this one. I think now is probably the best time to switch out to the diamond instead. They both mine it exactly the same, and so why not, I guess. But yeah, I think that preparing for stuff kind of is some of the enjoyment. Like, you might say, like, wait a minute, why wouldn't I just do all of this after the update? Or you might even say, like, Toy Cat, I think building a stable for a mob that isn't technically out yet, I think that's going a little over the top. And I think a large part of past me would agree with you. I think that this is one of those things where I've, like, kind of changed my perspective from, yeah, you're stupid if you do things ahead of time. Don't you know it doesn't make sense yet? I think I've moved from that position to, like, well, but isn't I think that having fun and, like, doing something that brings you some joy is enough reason to do most things in life. Because ultimately, that is what a large part of life is about. If I could share another thought that I've just had, this has been on my mind all morning. I met up with a friend recently who came from a similar background to me. Like they lived in a they lived in if it wasn't a council flat, it was a very cheap flat, with their single mother because their father decided to move across the country and live in they decided to like start a kebab shop on the other side of the country. I think that's not actually a joke. I think that's actually what it was. So their father left them to go and run the kebabs. And I thought that as interesting a story as that is when you just hear it in the abstract, it was also interesting because this guy, and the same is true for like all of my other friends who come from like similarly disadvantaged disadvantaged, I don't like that word either, but like similar backgrounds where like money is not something that is at your parents' discretion, because it's the interesting difference. It's an interesting difference in how people see money. Is if your parents are the biggest limit on when you do or don't get money, then your view of the world is like, man, kind of messed up that sometimes people don't pay for things or do nice things. You get a very view of the world that we could always do something and we sometimes choose not to. Whereas if you if you ever if your mother ever accidentally shows you her bank account and it's like minus 4,000, you're like, oh yeah, we are not in a position to do this. And what I think is interesting is like all of my friends who've come from the same position have had this like same experience of like going out and like are the ones who earn the best today. I think I would say it's crazy how consistently true that is. That like basically everyone is either at the bottom or at the top. There's no in between. I have no one who moved into comfortable upper working class. Also, if you want mushrooms, pro tip: go mining for Netherite in the Nether. Wait, these are the wrong mushrooms. Never mind. Bad pro tip. Well, I mean, actually, you're probably just as likely to find either type of mushroom, right? So, if you want mushrooms, my pro tip is go to the Nether and mine around, and maybe you'll find the right type faster than doing whatever nonsense I did. So yeah, now that we're down at 11, pro tip: if you want to know about how to mine Netherite, just in case you're watching this and you're like, Toycat, you haven't even told us how you're finding ancient debris. The guides, the long-standing advice is still correct. I'm not going to repeat too much here, but I'll go through the simplest version, which is mine at about layer 13. If you're at layer 13, you're probably fine. So let's make a nice long tunnel right now, going this way, and then we'll like curve this way. And we should probably curve the other way, but we'll make a nice long tunnel. And we'll just assume that we'll find some ancient debris. A lot of people love to explosion mine. Totally fine to do that too. It's just, not my personal... Wither mining is also a lot of fun. But again, just not what I'm doing right now. I'm just looking to find 2 more ancient debris so I can have a spare Netherite later. I think that would be nice, and so that is what I am doing. I'm also going to put down... Ooh, did that wrong. I'm going to put down this shulker box so I can dump in... No, this isn't the right shulker box. This is the right shulker box. I'm going to dump down my shulker box with all of my netherrack, because I've got too much of it, and I actually do use my netherrack for my giant nether project, so it's nice to have a few piles laying around. Anyway, though, my thought is like everyone is like been at that point because they're like kind of looking for this like sense of like security. It's not like money isn't a nice like you get to choose when you do it. It's like you need this so that you can start. So that money things can become decisions rather than forced options. And I was thinking about it, and it's kind of interestingly similar to how like being prepared for it. It kind of ties into the idea of being prepared, because when you're caught out through something that isn't, or what feels like it's not your own fault, there's a weird debate about like how much of your parents' sins are your own, right? Like, or rather, how much of your because we argue. One of the most controversial thoughts that I just want to share right now, that I've been wrapping my head around, because I saw a debate between 2 people about this, but it's like everyone agrees that if your parents do really, really good and want to pass that on to you, or like give you some advantages in life, be that giving you a tutor, be that giving you love, affection, and good nutrition, whatever it is, right? Everyone agrees that your parents should be able to give you that, and that the reason that it's fair that you have it is because, they worked hard. It's fair because of that. But it's interesting because we don't say the inverse. We don't say that if your parents didn't give you a lot, if you're from a teenage pregnancy that was already an unstable family. But if people don't say that, like, in those situations, well, your parents did something wrong, and so that's kind of, your thing too. And I've always thought that to be a hugely interesting thought. That, like, how much off your life can you pin on you versus the world? I think that it's very tempting to maybe overclaim the amount of pain that can be blamed on the world. I think it's very, very easy and very compelling too sometimes to be like, well, actually, this is not my own fault. It is the responsibility of the fact that I was never taught otherwise. Like there are so many dumb things like to this day that I'm still learning. Are like, oh yeah, you're really not supposed to do this. Like I just don't have the instinct inside of me that says, wow, I'm really underdressed here. I'm like, wow, everyone else is nicely dressed, and I am dressed in a nice way too. It's a different nice way, but it's a nice way nonetheless. Whereas a lot of people have this like deep horror of like, oh no, it was a suit occasion and I'm not wearing a suit. It's a dress occasion and I'm out here just wearing a blouse, or it's a fancy dress occasion. I'm wearing a regular dress. I think women's levels of clothing are much more complex than guys' ones, right? Like I feel like with guys it's like, oh yeah, it's either formal, semi-formal, or not formal at all. At which point you can wear whatever you want. There's a whole like tier system going on the women's side of that. But I think it's fascinating like how many rules there are to life that you are meant to pick up, and that but who can blame you if that didn't come up at any point in your upbringing? Even simple ideas like one I learned like 3-4 years ago is like when you get a napkin, you put it on your lap. You do that little fancy thing. And the reason I learned that is because I went somewhere fancy enough where they did it for you, and where if it fell off, they would put it back on. And I was like, oh, the implication being that they want it on there, or at least you want it on there because it is a rule that it is assumed that you want it on there, and therefore they think they're doing you a service by doing this. I had like a real like realization that like, oh, it's not just for wiping your mouth, although it's also good for that. It's also used for this. There's a whole rule that I never learned, and can I blame not knowing that rule on the fact that it never came up in my upbringing? I didn't go to a lot of fancy. I didn't go to any fancy restaurants, as best I know. But there's a lot of stuff like that where it's like, who do you blame? And at some point you have to say, well, like it's not fair, but like yourself, right? You are the product of what you get. And I was thinking about. This came up because because I recently got a real lucky situation, internet. I never knew my dad growing up at all. I don't the details behind it are slightly vary between my parents, but I didn't know my dad at all growing up. But one of the cool little even though I ended up with a world without a father, I ended up with his father was technically Irish, and so now I end up with a cool passport that allows me to live outside the EU but still be an EU citizen, right? If I want to be, I get to play Schrodinger's Irish citizen loophole. Anyway, but I think there's a. Also, by the way, it is hard to find ancient debris. But let's start building some tunnels now. Okay, no ancient debris. Build another one. 3 blocks away. Let's go. I think 3 blocks doesn't work as well for ancient debris because of the fact that it's because it generates in smaller veins. So we'll go for 2 blocks apart after these tunnels. But yeah, I'm going to keep on going till I find these ancient debris. By the way, this is part of the fun of preparing for updates. But yeah, oh god. Life is pain, and pain is life. I think that there's a weird, continual question of blame in the world, and I do think that I am starting to appreciate the any time I feel like I want to blame this on someone, I've got to try and work out is there a chance that this is actually me? It's a hard thing to say because there's a lot of times where it's like objectively not true, but I think it still makes you feel better to feel like you were in some way in control. This is, maybe you could argue this is a control issue more than anything else. Maybe you could argue that sometimes it's better to be in control of something bad than not in control of something good. This is it's never something I've related to, but it's what a lot of people say about self-harm. It's like, yeah, that's the reason they're so on board with it. And although I am specifically very much not advocating that way, I think the fact that some people agree with and believe in that is kind of proof of the idea that, some people would rather be in control of a bad situation than not in control of a good one. Side note, no ancient debris, but that means that I've got some extra time to go and mine some. Also, it means I got a ton of Netherite, which is great. looking forward to doing fun things with that. Also, I thought this is where my tunnel went. So I need to just make this more obvious and clear so that future me knows where to go. Sadly, no extra ancient debris, just the really obvious ones that I've been hanging out there with forever. But I will, I'll have to make sure I get the rest of that in advance of tomorrow, which if you enjoyed this super long Let's Play where we spoke about preparation, and we spoke about the idea that everything you prepare for, you prepare for everything in life, just sometimes you don't admit it. If you enjoyed this discussion, then you can check out tomorrow's stream. It's going to be one of my longest ones. One of the sad things about streamers is I sometimes think, like, you know, everyone who gets into streaming says, yeah, you got to stream 6 hours a day minimum if you want to do good. And every now and then I'm like, you know, being a streamer sounds fun in a way. Like, just because, you know, I'd actually be playing Minecraft 8 hours a day rather than, like, you know, looking at the idea board, thinking about how to present information in a better way. I could just also know my sign. I need to put that back up, huh? So, okay, we have not picked up the sign yet, so now I'll dunk this single soul torch. Which actually, why do I have a single soul torch? I'll put the soul torch here, and then I'll place the sign on the soul torch. If it lets me, which I assume it will. It won't. So then I'll put the sign... See, a hanging sign would be perfect right now. I'll just put the sign over here then. Warped Forest Spur. It didn't say that before, but the beauty of breaking things is now you get to change them. Anyway, I really do think that preparation for stuff in life instinctively feels a little bit like, why do you even care? Just wait for it to come out, man. Like, why do you care so much? But actually, it's like a show that you care about things. And I think that caring about things is an underrated thing. I think that liking things and admitting you like things and knowing you like things is awesome. And that people who claim it's cool not to are actually the people who suffer the most because they don't get to enjoy. You know, me not enjoying that my friend was so excited for Halloween. You know, me never saying like, oh, I'd love to come round to one of your Halloween parties. You know, I get to pretend that I'm really cool because I don't care about Halloween, and in exchange, I missed out on a cool Halloween party. In exchange for, you know, in exchange for me getting to, you know, like not care, I lose out on something that's worth caring about. And that is how I would say about update stuff. You can do as much or as little from this list as you like, and I hope that you do some amount, and I hope that you are excited for the next update. Because if you're not, then 26.0 is going to catch you off guard, huh? Yeah, we won't go too much into future updates, but man, it's going to be a wild time for Update News EX next year, just because of the version number alone. I think that's going to be revolutionary, and maybe not even in the good way. But with that said, I hope you all enjoyed this video today. Now you know 6 things that you can, and maybe should be doing, to prepare for the update. Hopefully you do precisely that. For now, all I'm going to be doing is smelting up my newfound ancient debris. Or I could use them as like, you know, I do have down here my little rare little section. Maybe it makes sense to mix in with some of the other blocks a few ancient debris. Because this pattern isn't perfect, right? The pattern clearly has some spaces where it would be better if we had something else. So maybe we remove these lodestones. Well, actually, it technically ties it. But let's remove this lodestone here. Put in ancient debris. Fits in perfectly. So this is how you don't prepare for the next update. This is specifically how you do the opposite of that. But I hope you all enjoyed this video regardless, and I'll see you in the next one. Good night. Or goodbye. It's 1 PM as I'm finishing this. But it might be night as you hear that, so good night, good morning, and in case I don't see you, good death.